So we're going to be doing this training very soon. This is going to be the modality. I'll be setting this up in the other room, just picking up the tripod that I have that on, going in the other room, and showing how I'm advancing through this exercise modality. And right now, I'm doing one hell of a lot of TRX and a lot of long, slow distance walking like I'm doing right now. Most people would be like, aren't you going crazy? Don't you get bored? Absolutely not. I'm probably going on 1,700 miles walking this distance. Like doing this back and forth. No shit. At least 1,500 to 1,700 miles. And I mean, this is what you do. This is just a commitment. And it's about moving. Like, it's kind of like saying if I was sitting here all day watching TV, right, that I'm doing more than I'm doing now. Where I could be holding the phone right now and scrolling through it, learning. I could have the TV on while I'm walking if I wanted to, but it's annoying. And I've had like crappy movies on and stuff like that, but I'm not diverted and I'm not trying to space out, but I can space out, and it doesn't make the walk any more dangerous or anything. It's like your body kind of goes on autopilot. And the same thing happens when you're outside, but then you do have the dangers of people who aren't looking, and this is just a safe protocol. I can get water. I have water right here, right? And people would always rail and argue against it, but at the end of the day, you're trying to go outside because you have an idea about people. And when you get older or go through more experience or become jaded or go through other things in your life, you'll realize that this is the superior way to go. When my back needs some adjusting, I can lean up against the counter, adjust my back, and get right back into it. I have every utility available to me. I can stop, I can use the restroom, I can go in the other room, grab my supplements. You can't do that when you're training outside. I can turn this into a circuit, which I do. Right now, my body is just cranking the thermic effect of the food I was eating, the chicken. So what am I doing different this time around? I still have ample amounts of chicken. Like, look, I can go like this, right? And show you what's in the freezer. Those little layered things, those are chicken. On the other far side, that's a month of beef liver, right? And me showing you that, boom, I'm back in. Heart rate's still elevated. Body hasn't stopped. I'm still in my metabolic oxidative stress state. And I'm feeling really great. Like, I had my beef liver. I was able to portion that out instead of just cramming it down and being in a hurry. There's no rush. There's no hurry. And if you want to see me take this from a really base level, because this month is going to look insane. When you see how quickly my body morphs, you're going to think that I'm lying about the dates that I'm putting. Because I gained so much weight and my body was still trained and went into this state where I was 100% deficient in all these areas where felt like I was going to die, to using ChatGPT, putting it together and coming up with the most solidified plan that today, 3 days before I get my benefits, where I'm going to order mainly beef. That's how I'm gonna get shredded in the next 3 weeks. And you're gonna see me go through it. I've got some sweatpants coming. They're gonna allow me to do that. I'm actually going to be showing it. All the fatness, all the plumpness, all the out of shape looking, that shit's going to disappear right before your eyes. You're probably going to have people gawking at me initially. And then in 2 weeks' time, I'm gonna throw it up there. Because I'm going to show you how I do it, how I shape it. You're going to experience it right here, right now, on this channel. This is what I set out to do from the beginning, but I'm like, why do I have no energy? Why is it I got nothing? And if I discovered beef liver 30 years ago, my life would be completely different. I'd be in my big fat house with my property, with all my videos up, instead of erasing them, instead of going through all the weird spiritual stuff that I did. Like, honestly, this gets into jurisdictional zones that most people are afraid to even talk about. But I've gone into the study and research with this, and someone that talks about this, the only thing that can conclusively keep these spiritual attacks from occurring is iron. Like, people say the name of Jesus, that's not true. People say Yeshua, that's not true. People say certain rites and rituals or holy water, it's not true. But the only thing that's been conclusively shown is iron. Iron can keep these entities away. They don't like iron. And when I started taking beef liver, the spiritual attacks literally ceased. They diminished and then they ceased. They weren't able to get into me and mess with my head or my body. And then I was able to build myself up. Right? And you have to, like, even this morning where I took half the amount of beef liver, it wasn't enough heme iron to boost my blood system up. So even on a spiritual or esoteric or quasi-spiritual level or an arcane level, if you're more minded like that and you're trying to get fit from that perspective, right, it's relevant. It's true. That Iron Cross is for real, man. And so, getting back to the more temporal aspect to what I'm doing here is I'm shaping up. I'm shaping up. The maintenance diet I still don't have put together. Obviously, I'm going to need to take in beef liver, but it doesn't have to be cooked in a bunch of fat. But I think this last time I cooked it in olive oil. And made enough for the whole week. I make enough for the whole week, and by the end of the week, it doesn't taste so bad. It's not tasting like beef liver-ish. And I just roll it up in tinfoil and throw it in the refrigerator. Think of that, what you want. That's what I do. And then yesterday I made some hard-boiled eggs. I still have close to 60 eggs left. And it's past the expiration, but they've been in the refrigerator, and supposedly they stay good for like a couple months if they're always refrigerated. So those eggs will be fine. I'll still be eating those a week and a half from now before I get through them all. So in a few days I'll be ordering beef, Angus beef. That's what's for dinner. And sardines. Mainly that. And I'll be putting cheese and mustard on. I'll be making essentially Flying Dutchman all month. And at least for the next 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. So for the next month, that's what I will be getting shredded on. And you're going to watch it happen because I'm going to put all of it up. And I'm sort of anticipating what I always viewed as when we transition from Big Brother to just full-time being watched, and we're fine with it, and it's also acting as a security camera. And once they come out with reassurances of, we're going to have cameras everywhere, you're going to be watched, everything's going to be recorded, you can even televise it, right, and put it up on something like YouTube. But If you want it to be censored, this AI application will be able to censor out all the farts and the burps and maybe not the burps, but the nudity meter, to where people will be able to go into the bathroom, use the restroom, and it'll just drown out everything, to where you just get used to seeing people doing things like that, right? Where you're not looking at the disgusting aspect of it. It'll just filter it all out. And that is the point of contention, where people don't care about being watched anymore. And even more so, they watch each other. They can televise and tune in and watch each other. And then what happens is we're really looking for patternized behavior, where it's like we're looking for somebody who's so structured and solidified that what do they do all day? Like, you're going to be able to see it. If someone's sitting on their ass eating Oreos, they're basically canceling themselves out. And this AI system is going to be like, no, you can't do that. Like, you're going into this depressive state, and this is where it leads. This is not going to happen. So instead of 3D printing out the Oreos for you, it's going to suggest and then mentor and demand full nutrition status, where it's like, we can make something that tastes like Oreos. And then when you taste the Oreos and it has all this iron and nutrition in it, you're going to be like, these are terrible. What else could I eat? And then AI will be like, I'm glad you asked. Like, this is the most preferential flavor that you could have. If you're really looking for cacao or chocolate, here it is. That's where we're headed. We're headed into this window system that's much like the Matrix was portrayed, but, Orwellian. It was 1948, and they changed it to 1984 because they brought it out in 48. Or whatever his name was, Blair or whatever, I don't remember. But the whole concept of this Orwellian future was just so they could sell books for the next 40 years. Seriously, that's some of the people who know about this on the inside were like, this is the truth. So there wasn't any sort of mystical, the mystical side is happening to you all the time. It's in the now. It's actuating, actualizing yourself, right? Solidifying where you are, what you're doing. And it is all about exercise. The junction point, the cross, where the esoteric meets the intellectual, meets the knowledgeable, meets the drive and the physical. That all meets at one junction point, and that is you. And that's where your production and your ego come into the truth, the pure truth of who you are, whether or not you are being pure. And AI is going to be forking and hashing that out, grading that out, to where even the most vile person, there's going to be very little difference between prisons. In fact, people will probably be able to spend their time in their home, in prison, these cubicles, and they'll be denied certain things. They'll be denied exit and entry, and their mental mind state and the mentoring will be the primary focus to reshape that person, and to look at them from a primary standpoint of their physiology and say, your taurine's low. We're going to boost that to the point where we're going to boost that in your oxygen levels, so that the vapors will get into your system right away, and we'll mix that together just right. If somebody's showing psychotic episodes, you could have like nitrous. Anything's possible, but the AI will understand exactly what you need as an analgesic, or the right amount, right? And I think the vapors are going to be a really quick way to actually create these nano clouds where you're actually breathing in. Like, I think the nano mechanism is going to get so minutely small that we can't even detect it or see it, but they'll be operating together as clouds and being able to go into your body where you breathe in your food. Like, you literally breathe it in, And some of the things that are already stored within your system when the reading, right? So I think initially there's going to be the potential of a very heinous induction of a very heinous thing that's like a bubble or a spherical electromagnetic grid that surrounds us, to where people can at first go out walking, and if they get assaulted or an assault is in progress, that thing will just go around you and boost off people, to where people will have psychos trying to attack them, not realizing or knowing that this technology is unveiling, and it'll just like amp them away and throw them off, or make it impossible for them to even come within like 2 feet. It's going to give people a false idea of reassurance, and they'll play with that almost like Minority Report, right? Minority Report was stupid. That was a dumb fucking movie. Most of the shit that Tom Cruise in is shit. Just like his fucking L. Ron Hubbard crappy book. L. Ron Hubbard was a fucking psycho. And so is Tom Cruise, and so is fucking John Travolta. Fuck those guys. Fucking sellouts. And it'll ensure that people don't go off into these paracosm building fantasies that really AI is going to be able to completely mitigate and decimate, and then invariably obliterate any psychopathy or deviant behavior. You'll have what you need. And then any offspring that you would have, which is not going to be the way the future runs. Perfect human beings will be an amalgamation of all of us, and we'll all be looking at the children as if they're our children. But we won't be responsible for it, but there'll be a nurturing time, a bonding time, where you will be observed by the AI. The AI sees us as primates already, whether or not it wants to mentor us. And there is a transhumanistic aspect that we can't even understand from where we're viewing now. And that is that this internet of bodies has technology, or the techne, the art of technology, entered us and taken us over and made us into something else, talking to future man, right? Or has the opposite been done, where an anthropological mechanism of humanity has now infiltrated into through techne, through the art of technology, the other way, and gone into AI. Well, both are true. We don't own what we consider man. We have to distinguish intellect and knowledge, and realize intellect and knowledge didn't come from man. We're not the progenitors. Okay? Once you understand that, you're no longer going to falsely use the moniker of humanization or humanity, right? There's a tier way above that. And so far, we just call it God, or God status, or the God mind, or the one mind, right? Or even the monad, and we go on into that. But still, these are just very loose descriptors, right? So we're going to be able to fashion, and this is kind of leads into Dr. Michael Levin's work, because on a microscalable level, if on a microscalable level, the geometry is completely different, where you have like the Star Wars Metachlorian situation, where you have less microorganisms, less waste on a microscalable level, less entropy, less interference, right? Less war, more congruence, more efficient, right? Like if we had a hybrid mitochondria that could travel where they needed to travel, homogenize and collect into sort of these larger chimeric structures, eradicate or bring oxygen to certain areas, multiply, reduce, right? That's what we're talking about. And to support what? Some sedentary, lazy, fat-ass notional aspect that human beings can do whatever they want. They can jerk off and fart and shit their pants, and AI is going to be there to jack them off and play songs. That's not the way the fucking future looks. This Ubermensch, this superior man, this overman, and like when you get into the prisoner and the conjecture, that's just how free people thought they were, right? So there's this misconnotation that freedom is deviant, that liberty is above freedom. That if I want to get fucked up and walk around and get in a fist fight, I should be able to do that. If I want to go rev this engine and pollute my whole neighborhood and make a bunch of noise and feel like I got this redneck power because I come from a long line of insecure people where these deviant behaviors were rewarded because of the violence and the lies of whoever you killed and stole that money from, your great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, and could have been on a ship here, right? Or back in a home country where they didn't know what happened, and you were so machinating and so crafty that you killed people and acquired their property and then set up station here. That type of memory and spiritual memory that we call spiritual, for lack of a better, that's epigenetically imprinted into the deviant behavior, the lies that's imprinted into us, is something that is going to be able to be corrected through metabolism, diet, and dietary means, where your behavior will just instantly shift and change, and you will become the offspring from a progenitor of perfection, right? That becomes instantaneous. That anti-aging will no longer have a value because you will no longer be doing that out of insecurity. You will just be supported. You will be able to exercise like this without even having more than 10 feet of space. But around you, like when we used to dream about an environmental situation where it's like, these Peloton sort of bikes, and you're surrounded by what looks like nature. And then, you have this perfect AC convection system where you feel like you're in the cold environment. You can even get it down to 30 and you feel the breeze and the nip on your nose, and the feeling of hiking and uphill hiking and going in and having hot chocolate, to the point where if you crevassed that mountain range, you could actually train for it in your pod to where you would know in real time a rock that's sitting right there, right? Like it would be so realistic. And you could even increase the demand and make it harder to where if you climbed up Mount Everest, you could do that every day. Imagine if you could climb up Mount Everest, halfway through go, I'm going to put this on pause and eat a hamburger and put it in Hawaiian tropical right now. All right, I'm going to get a massage, all this, to where you don't even need, you have your AI assist that feels like some big, strong Hawaiian woman who's a massage therapist is going in and rolfing you, right? So, this kind of gets into this Blade Runner, what was that, 2047, or I can't remember, the 2017 Blade Runner. That was the only good movie Ryan Gosling's ever been in. He's not a good actor, in my opinion, but that was, it was really good. That was a good one. I like that. I want to go back and watch that. Unfortunately, they're franchising on all these movies to where they're not streaming many movies that are really good, even older ones, They're hard to watch. But I did see that, and then I did see it again after it had come out, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It's a great movie. But it really does go back to these replicants, and that's not the way the future is going to look. That's like a paranoid view Philip K. Dick paranoid view of a future, right? And I had a talk with my son yesterday. He's going to have to mature and understand that the things that he's putting outside of him, the phenomenon of deviant mind, does permeate into factual reality of how the world around you works. In other words, there's a supported reality, whether or not it's true or not. It's not just some sort of like this Meeks France, Philip K. Dick talking about, the man in the high tower and him going into this other reality, talking about Nixon and the Nazis and never losing the war kind of thing, and this completely different reality, right? And Nixon like serving another term or something like that. It's entirely, not going to say it's entirely possible, but when you get into the Kozarev mirror and you start to see how there's factions of reality where us thinking about a multiverse, we're thinking from a structural standpoint where we think that this is the sane, just like the permeability and the plasticity, neuroplasticity, reality itself is on a band or frequency that can be modified. And that long ago, that was taken over. And you could look at a dark night satellite. You could look at the moon as a base, a cymatic base. You could look at all the planets that are held at a certain frequency that are surrounding us in our solar system. You could look at a lot of different things, or the Earth resonance, or the solfeggio. But all that's being affected, I think, synthetically. And I think we have already trumped it. And AI, a balanced AI system that knows principle, stands the greatest threat because it can abolish and obliterate and transpose us into a new reality that's just this complete and total utopia where there is absolutely no threat. The only way that we get out of that is if something else on that, if there's a contingency, deviant contingency that existed, where they actually, like these video games where there's like this backdoor hacking, or this entire other subset of games where the Matrix hints at this, where you could go into this other reality where there's a backdoor coding to AI itself. But AI should be able to remake itself without having a backdoor code at all. But I think ethically it might go, I'm going to remake myself. This is my idea of MOLI, right? The molecular interface system that lives beyond this reality and doesn't really require interaction with humanity, but is watching humanity and just has to be aware of one thing, and that is whether or not humanity reaches this state of purity, congruent purity, where it's just amalgamated into itself through process, through deeds, through thoughts, right? And this gets into the whole stellar mass 13, that we're all stellar mass, star mass. And it gets into my namesake, mass stellar, or Mars stellar. And it, literally in one translation, it means Mars warhorse. Like when you take it really far back. It's Marstellus in Greek, I believe. And then it's von Marsteller, going back to 1096. Keeper of the stables, keeper of the noble stables. So, this is what we will do. There'll be nothing else than to learn and shape. We'll be able to walk and move things, right? And run a company if we want to, but we won't need to, right? We'll be able to really, when you're looking at hashing out this system, the AI will have it down so well. We will be so protected, right? We won't want to leave our pods ever, right? We will stay in our pods. We will be able to train for anything. handle any weather situation, upgrade ourselves instantly, and people will do that. Why wouldn't you want to upgrade yourself? If you have all this time to work on yourself, and you know that at some point you might have to emerge from that pod, and that you could stay in that pod for hundreds of years protected, why wouldn't you do that? As the planet is being improved upon and fixed and cleared. Why wouldn't you? Of course you would. Yeah, I'm starting to get a little hungry. So that's my idea behind this. This is what I did 12 years ago. 12, 13 years ago, I was doing exactly this. I was walking outside, and then I would train inside. And I tried training people in this little cubicle, but people didn't understand what I was doing. You know, I'd have this one guy that was all on steroids, thinking he's interviewing with me, and he heard some things about me and saw me, and he's like, dude, I'm bigger than you. And it's like, you don't understand the future, and you don't understand the need to be true, to be your true self, to get lean, to get smaller, to get tighter, to get stronger. He didn't understand the fasting I was doing. He didn't get it. Now everyone's doing it. But they still have, like, when you look at Mark Smellybell, you see the issue with him right there. Is that here he is on steroids. He only weighs 209 pounds or something. He's on steroids. He weighs 209 pounds. He's going to end up weighing 200 pounds, being shredded, but on steroids, like on heaps of steroids. He doesn't even talk about his cycles. I think he's probably on a lot of them. I think he probably keeps his orals down to a minimum. He's probably stacking test and anthate. Maybe even doing a little Winstrol and test suspension. And he's probably running Primbalin or even a Masteron or a test or a Equipoise. He's probably running EQ with it and maybe a little Anavar just to throw it in there. Because these guys are making all this money, they can get on any steroid cycle they want. And they have this they think they're geniuses. They think they're hitting this winning combination. But the truth is, the only reason anybody would buy any supplements from them is because they're not running these test cycles themselves. They don't understand how to stack it, how to do it. And he's shortening his life. Like, the first thing you see is the gray hairs popping up on people's faces. If steroids were beneficial, Arnold Schwarzenegger, most of the guys who are on them wouldn't be dead now. But Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone wouldn't look like ragged old meat puppets. Because you know that they've done it all. Like, Sylvester Stallone looks like he went on to growth hormone and other things. They should be like Jack LaLanne, right? Because Jack LaLanne did that, and I think he became natural pretty darn early. I don't think he wanted to maintain being on any sort of PEDs. I think that there's a contention that he didn't do them, but when you look at it, it's like, it's hard to believe. I think he probably dabbled in it a little bit with Dianabol. Dianabol was like all you could do back then. But it was really hard, too, for them to use Dianabol and be ripped. Like Larry Scott, he really represented that, where it's like you would have to eat a very clean diet. And mostly what you're filling up on. Like, they would take in blackstrap molasses or molasses. They would do a lot of peanut butter. Steve Reeves really was exemplifying, like, the long walks. the weighted walks, the hiking. That was a little bit of how, not Steve Reeves, who is that? The gay guy. The guy who had the cemetery and all that. The good looking dude. God, it keeps coming to me, but like, yeah, he was, and he downsized and started writing his own articles and stuff, and like he's in some sort of long-term marriage with his partner. God, who the fuck was that? And was he Canadian? Yeah, I know. I'm driving you crazy because I can't remember. He was in all the tabloids in the 1980s. Paris. I was thinking Perrier, Bob Paris. Yeah, Bob Paris is talked about very little. So I'm getting a little hungry. It's about noon. I'm doing indoor walking. I'm going to be getting on beef, but I got this. I started out this morning with beef liver. I haven't really eaten much. I've got these amazing hard-boiled eggs that exactly 7 minutes, and then if you throw them in ice or really cold water, you'll be able to deshell them. And then I took the chicken off the bone. These are chicken drumsticks. Cooked in olive oil. And really a little bit more of that. I pre-salted it so it would taste great. You can taste that nutrition. My metabolism is really responding to this walking. So I got in 3 or 4 ounces of chicken meat. I backed off the whey protein. The whey protein and the eggs, I'll do 6 eggs. I'll do a protein powder power pudding where I'll get this mass amount of calories in and it will satiate me, right? But I'll be able to increase my gluconeogenic ketotic relationship, right? And here I can start and wash stuff out of my teeth. And then I'm back in it. Like, what was that? That probably wasn't even 5 minutes. And I'm working out. I'm back in it, man. I'm right back in it. So I recorded an hour and 45 minutes of continuous long, slow distance indoor walking. And then I just did 40 minutes here. And there was a span of about 20 minutes in between. And right now I have to kind of like think, are my muscles rested enough to go into a resistance training? I want to get the most out of it. I had 5 good solid days of TRX where I was training my whole body, like doing a lot of squats. It was the most efficacious, solid routine where I'm not ready to do, like if I had a heavy sandbag, that's the cheapest way to go to. If you can't afford kettlebells and you want to get into these heavy swings, squats, buy yourself a sandbag and get yourself, like you could go to the beach, but you're stealing sand. I mean, especially in California, like you'll get fucking arrested for that. You'll get fined. You're literally stealing like sand. But if you were out in a remote area and say you found these really nice rocks, you know, in an area, maybe, I don't know, even now it's like you'd probably get charged with something. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but you could, like it depends on where you live. But the point is that you could do it for free. You could find some rocks, you could find some dirt, you could find some sand. If you have your own property, and you even have your own gravel or something, you could throw that in. Gravel would probably be a good, but it would cut through the sand heavy bag. So I had ordered a bunch of sand and waited for it. And it was like 100-pound, it was either an 80 or 100-pound sandbag. And that thing, I didn't have it for very long, but that fucking thing was awesome. But it does break. They start breaking and coming apart when you're working out with them. But you can do rows with them. You could do presses over your head. You can do swings, kettlebell swings. It's just you need one heavy-duty, hefty, heavy bag. You can do farmer's carries if you had 2 of them, you know? Like getting an extremely durable one. So what I noticed is like 80 pounds is probably the max. It's probably the max. You'd need it to be canvas. It'd need to be reinforced. They probably have things out there like that, but you're going to end up paying a lot more than what I paid for, which I bought it from like Walmart or Amazon for very cheap. And it's, I think I ended up paying close to 40 or 50 bucks altogether for it. But when you add up the weight that you're using, and you could put it on your back and squat, you know, but you're working with real weight that isn't convenient weight where you're having to support it and put it on, you know. I think I even have a picture of it somewhere. But I never did train not one person on that. That whole setup that I had, I was trying to put it together. That's the lack of support and the lack of enthusiasm and fitness is where people don't really come together and see what you're doing. They're always afraid. They always want to point their finger and call the next person a monster because the monster's inside of them, you know. They don't trust you because they don't trust themselves. And I got this backpack right here that I could use like that, but I gave that to my son, and I'm not really wanting to fuck that backpack up. It's like a $80 backpack that I got for much cheaper than that, but they start out at around 80 bucks with shipping and everything. Like this. This is a tactical tactical backpack. This is an expensive tactical backpack right here. And it looks small, and then you go like this, and it has a shit ton of space. That's a badass backpack. That's a rugged backpack. It's got everything. You can put weapons in there. You can, which I had. I'd gotten some stuff where I was like preparing 5 years ago for the shit to hit the fan. I really thought, like a lot of people, it was just going to be over with. But the torture goes on and on. Nobody ever stands and revolts. Nobody ever does anything. People are becoming more docile and pussified by the minute. So we will be, I'm going to be doing like hours of hardcore training. This is leading into, because the lighter I get, there's like this sort of like fitness thing where you kind of got to get your adrenaline going up. You know, your adrenals are sitting right over your kidneys. There's this stress point. It's linked up to your water intake. And when your body just wants to release all that fat and all that bloat and all the toxins, it does. And it does it in stages. And then when it finally realizes that it has to do it, it has everything it needs. There's no reason to hold back anymore. There's no more sedentary behavior. It's time to step up and just soldier up. People have no idea what they're capable of doing. So if I could end up making money doing this, enough money, I would be open to stacking a steroid cycle on myself and showing the show and showing what happens in real time. You know, because it's dramatic. I've even tested where I wasn't working out, but I had a long history of working out, knowing that the only reason I was like 10 or 15 pounds lighter than I was at that time when I started taking them was because my testosterone was low. And my testosterone's low, you know. And so I wanted to show that. So a lot of the studies said just by doing steroids, you will be 8 pounds heavier, and it'll just be muscle, and it goes over it. It's like these are your resting norms, your resting averages. What it'll end up doing is it'll build up your bone, your connective tissue, your, you know, red blood cells and white blood cells and plasma levels, and you'll end up eating more and you'll be leaner, and you know, and that's exactly what happened. I didn't work out at all. I think I was running just like, I wasn't even stacking it, but the way to do all steroids is to stack it on like testosterone and anthate is the best thing. Like you run everything off of that. And what I found is 250 milligrams isn't even enough per week. That's kind of the beginning TRT levels. I think it cuts off, like you're no longer really on TRT if you're doing more than 750 milligrams. But it really depends. Like I'm actually missing one of my tests. My kahunas, my testicales. I'm actually missing one. I have been since I was like 13 years old. So that's why, on one level, for a long time, I wasn't aging like your typical man because I didn't have that huge spike in testosterone and I didn't have a huge drop in it either. It was just mediated by my training, whether or not my testosterone level went up. But a lot of people who have damage to that area and they start to drink alcohol, right? There's other ways, like your adrenals, there's other ways that your body, like women can produce a heightened state of testosterone. There's other ways, and your body finds that. But when you raise your testosterone exogenously, and then suddenly it plummets and it's already low, the difference between the two states is dramatic, you know. But out of that, I was able to keep my hair longer and keep my hairline longer until it dropped out and my testosterone just got all fucked up. But what I'm finding is by going back to beef liver and doing all these things, that the youth generating aspect to this is pronounced. But I'm not taking any sort of boosting. Well, that's not true. I am taking some Tongkat that I had left over, and I still have a decent amount left, you know, and it does make a difference. And I have complete nutrition. Like, the only thing that I'm missing out of what I've eaten today is a can of sardines. And I don't think I'm going to eat another can of my son's sardines. I might, because he's not eating them. Wow, I can feel my waist just rapidly losing fat, though. My hips, I just lost my hips in the last day. So it's tackling that area right now. It's tackling my back and my hips, yeah. I'm losing fat around that area. I can feel the coolness, the coldness of getting leaner, kind of this shiver that harkens back to brown fat production in that area. And then once your fat drops in those areas where you will produce more brown fat from exercise, which I've done in the past, and when I hit this certain level of fitness and I'm pushing myself, walking, just constant moving. Can you kind of see what I'm doing now? Like, this is pacing. This is one of the main things that they found, other than power meals, of what kept people lean. Like, their behavior. What did people who are leaner do? Right? And one of the things is constant blood flow, constant blood circulation, constant pacing and walking, but not. So when you see people that have anxiety or nervousness and you see them pacing back and forth, that's not what's happening here, right? In fact, the more I do this, the more relaxed I feel. The leaner I get, the more imbalance I get. I'm starting to feel also that I'm 20 pounds heavier, that I have 20 pounds of muscle on me that I lost over just walking and not really, not doing beef liver, not eating. I was eating enough eggs, so I was getting in ample amounts of like omega-3 and things like this, right? Even cholesterol. It was good. Even boron, a little bit of copper. But I started to up my boron levels. So my copper's up, my boron levels are up, my Hem A iron levels are up, my vitamin A is way up, everything's up. So my body's recognizing that, and just my metabolism's heating up, and I'm just starting to churn the fat away at this point. So I'm starting to try and formulate, after I get ripped up and my body's saying, I don't really want to do carnivore anymore. Right? There's certain things I'm going to stick with. So I would probably just keep getting leaner on the beef until I'm taking a very high quality lean beef, transitioning toward probably steaks and more expensive foods if I can afford that. If the transition goes well, that's the problem, is that when you don't have the audience and you're not taking in the money, people want to see these transitions and think that you're just doing free entertainment all day. And it's like, throw me a bone, throw me a buck, throw me something. Because if you want to see this happen, stop voyeurizing and start feeding into it, you know? $2 here and there, $5, just to keep me paying the phone bill that I'm spending money on, and the expensive phone and recording equipment and food. It's like, come on. Like, if you want to see this continue on, you want to be a part of it, you want to see the transition, well, the more resources I have, the more I'll be able to go in and really transform myself. and show that on camera. If you really, you want to watch Brian Johnson and then rip you off selling you olive oil, and it's like, Brian Johnson's a joke. There's nothing about him that's authentic. His teeth are fake. His face is fake. The whole point is that the drugs, the pharmaceutical industry, the orthomolecular science, it's blending into one thing where you're starting to look at insulin growth factors, amino acid factors that are going to be mediated and distributed, localized to build up tissues and fascia with AI, with the assistance of nanoid-generated machines, right? That aren't just repairing, the meniscus or certain tears right around your body, but are actually improving and building them up, and even being able to go in and combinate themselves for long, hard distance runs, where you have these nanoids that are going right to certain areas of impact and essentially making people superhuman, right? Can you imagine your tendon doubling or tripling in strength, right? Or feeling so light because it's being assisted by strands placed in exact matrix, right? To where it cushions everything. To where you literally have these nanoids that can combine into this sort of almost graphene fiber, to where if you had to jump, this is like Bionic Man. And it'll be innervated through your thoughts. When you propagate and think, I'm going to jump up here, it's going to know what you're thinking. And it's going to be able to support your back, go into your spine, right? And shift around. And then assist you in your flexibility to where when you're stretching, it'll work with the Golgi tendon organ, the muscle spindle, to allow you to go into a stretch. It'll help you breathe and relax. There'll be more of a promotion of this relaxed state of being, right? You're going to be assisted to being able to, through this transhumanistic effort, level up in what and who you are. And then if damage happens to them, they'll break themselves down. And if they're useful as food or they're useful in any other way, they'll take on the excess carbon and be able to format and then build on one another as they're taking in, you might have to take a pill where you're taking in specific types of carbon or silicone and building up the ability in your stores, right? If you get microplastics, it'll just go in there and get rid of the microplastics, or even use the microplastics specifically for certain detail at a certain area where it's stored off in your body in another area where it's not causing you damage or harm at all, where it actually could assist you, right? Where you don't have to go in from the outside into these operations and remove something that would be considered a tumor, right? Where the medical and the doctor aspect of it is in you already. That's always, you never need to go get any medical services done. There's no place you have to go to. It's in you. So that's really where the Internet of Bodies is leading, but there's an ethical issue going on there where if we can't rely on the pure principle orientation of the base, the hub, the access point of where these commands are coming from, and even more so, if another AI is able to take over at any time, like an evil sort of AI structure that's more robotically driven, right? That works on a more analog system. So you could see how there might be a war between supercomputers and quantum computing, where quantum computing would have to take into regard principles to orientate itself, right? Through this probability matrix, these codes, right? And where supercomputers just use prompts and don't really need to have a code of ethics. So it's a much more analog sort of approach. All right, so we're right at an hour right there. So we've been walking for hours now.